Hello everyone and welcome back to Film It Friday. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Sony A6300 and comparing it against the Sony FS5. The reason I'm making this video is because when I was looking for my FS5, I wasn't quite sure whether it was going to be worth it or not, and I wish there was a video like this out there that compared all the pros and cons. So let's start with the Sony A6300. I apologise for the cat in the background. So the first thing I really like about it is its form factor. It's so small, it's so portable, especially compared to the FS5. You can travel with this really easily and you can put this on a gimbal and you can have it set up with a couple of minutes. I'm really struggling to get the FS5 actually set up and working on my Crane 2. So the next thing, which is probably the best benefit of buying the A6300 over the FS5, is the autofocus. The autofocus on the 6300 is mind-blowingly good. The autofocus on the FS5 is mind-blowingly bad. If you're working on a bigger production or a TV series, something like that, and you've got time to make sure that every single shot is pin sharp, then the FS5 is great. But if you're a run and gun videographer like me, and I just want to be able to film something, it's bang on in focus every single time, then I would go for the A6300. The FS5 is really good if you have an external monitor. It does help a lot, but it's just adding bulk. And if you're running around really quickly, if you've got it on a monopod, or if you have got it on a gimbal, then you don't want to really add another bit of weight. You want to save your back. So the next thing I want to talk about is the EVF. The EVF and the screen actually, the EVF especially is wonderful on the A6300. The EVF on the FS5 looks like a 90s video camera. Both screens are pretty bad, especially in bright sunlight. The FS5 is pretty much unusable in bright sunlight and you don't really want to be using the EVF, so you have to get an external monitor. I mount ours on here and it does work quite well once you've got it set up. With the A6300, you can just put your eye to the EVF and you know that you're going to be nailing that exposure and focus every single time. So the last thing I really like about the A6300 is the 120 frames a second continuous recording. We pretty much exclusively are filming in 120 frames a second or in 4K. The FS5 does shoot 4K and I believe you can get a firmware upgrade so you can shoot 120 frames a second, but why doesn't it do it when you buy it? That bothers me. I don't like having to pay more money when I've already spent £3,500 on this camera. So on to the things that I don't like about the A6300. Let's start it off with the one that everyone always chooses. It's battery life. The battery life to me, it's not a big deal. One of the original Sony batteries lasts about 40 minutes to an hour if you're lucky. We get an external battery bank, we whack it on top of the cage, plug it in via micro USB, and we've got battery life for a day. You get a lot of camera for your money, and the battery life issue can be solved. The next thing is the overheating problem, and yes, it does overheat. And again, it's kind of to do with the batteries. So we shot a wedding in Malta this year and it was 34 degrees when we were filming the ceremony in bright sunlight with these cameras. The ceremony was about half an hour long and these cameras didn't falter. And that's because we changed the batteries before we started filming. If you change the batteries regularly, then you're not going to have a problem with overheating. So the last thing that I really don't like about the A6300 is the record limit of 29 minutes. That's really frustrating. With the FS5, you can record for as long as your memory card allows you to. You could record for 12 hours. I did an 8-hour time lapse the other day and it was fine. And we've got a monstrous battery. We did 8 hours of continuous recording and we still have 50% battery at the end of it. So yeah, really good on that front. So on to the things that I like about the FS5. The first thing is the 240 frames a second slow motion. I saw Philip Bloom's video of the Sony FS700, I nearly bought it, And then I thought, well, 4K is becoming more and more popular. It's a very handy thing to have. So let's spend the extra money. Let's buy the FS5. But the 240 frames a second is just beautiful. It's so crisp. It's so nice. And I just wish that that technology could go into this camera, and that would be my perfect setup. The other reason we bought it is because of the dual SD card slots. If you're shooting a wedding on a camera like this with one SD card slot, and you're shooting someone's vows that they're never going to say to each other again, and your memory card fails, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. If you're upgrading from the A6 series or the A7 series, then all of your lenses will go straight onto the FS5 and you can use them straight away. So if you've got a lot of glass already, this is the obvious upgrade for you. So on to the things that I don't really like about the FS5. The first one I've already touched on, it's the screen and the EVF. You would think if you're going to spend £3,500 on a camera that you'd be able to see what you're filming. I mean, it's that bad. You're going to need an external recorder or an external monitor to even get half decent footage out of this, and I realized this really quickly after buying it. Even when you've filmed something already and you want to play it back and view it, you never quite know whether it's in focus, and that is a real pain to me. So one of my favorite features, the 240 frames a second, is also one of my worst features about it because of the buffer time. Now I knew that there was going to be a buffer time of about 30 seconds, and I thought, all right, if I want this 240 frames a second, I'm going to have to live with this buffer time. The problem arises when you've got a bride and a groom coming out of a church, they're walking through a confetti aisle. You press record as they come out the church and the groom stops to talk to somebody. So you've got all the confetti going over, you're filming, you're like, please will you walk down the aisle so I can get this shot. And then your recording runs out and they start walking. You then have to cancel that recording, cancel that buffer, and press it again and hope that you manage to get it in time. It is a bit slow on the uptake, so you have to be really careful of that. I really like that it's got a stereo mic on it if you're going to use this for vlogging. Not many people would use this beast for vlogging, but your sound quality is going to be perfect. The sound quality on the A6300, it's not amazing. You've also got your inbuilt NDs on the FS5, so if it is a really bright day, you don't have to faff around with putting ND filters on the A6300 or on the A6500 on any of your lenses because it's in the body. That's a really good feature to have. Okay, so let's get down to it. Is the FS5 worth 5 times the amount of the A6300? Now I bought both of these units used. I bought the A6300 for £500. I bought the FS5 for £3,500. Do I think it's worth it? Would I rather have one of these or 5 of these? It's really hard to say. It's what you're gonna be using the cameras for. If you're shooting highlight videos of weddings, I would go for the A6300 every single day. If you're gonna be shooting long corporate events, the ceremony of a wedding, the speeches, or a concert, something like that, I would always go for the FS5. It really does depend on what you're filming. Am I happy that I bought the FS5? 100%. I really do like it. It's just a learning curve and it's a different way of filming, and you really have to take that into account before you buy one. Okay, I think that's about it. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Film It Friday. Thanks again and see you next time.